Hello YouTube, welcome to my PC build series video. As you can see, I have all the components that I need to put together a home theater PC, and when this baby is all assembled, it's gonna connect to this nice Samsung 65 QLED 4K Ultra HD monitor. Love to have a PC connected to it. Even though the TV is a smart TV, we can get Netflix, YouTube, Prime Video, and a bunch of other stuff. I still like to have a PC connected to it. It gives so much more flexibility. The one I had before, you can just make out that case, right? It was a nice Core i3 PC, Core i3 series 4160, which was based on the Haswell core, but it is dated. It's over 10 years old now, and it's starting to show its age with blue screens. It's happening very often. Not sure whether that's a symptom of thermal related issues, but I need a reliable one, and after 10 years I think I am justified in building a new one. So in any case, I've bought the components. I've done the unboxing video for the Cooler Master Box NR200 mini ITX case, and let's take a look at the other components. Right, I've opted to go with a 550 watt power supply. So I didn't think I needed anything more than that. It is an 80 plus bronze rated PSU, so it should be reliable enough for the things that I plan to do with it. Maybe a little light gaming and mostly 4K video playback. For the main board, read some reviews on the Asus ROG Strix B460i gaming motherboard. Well, it's not really for gaming, but the reviews were enough for me to be convinced that this could be a good platform for my home theater PC, and I went ahead with it. So decided to go with Core i5 10600K, socket LG 1200. So this is Comet Lake, and it should be more than sufficient. You may be asking, why did I take a K version of this, since I didn't get a Z490 chipset motherboard? And that would be a relevant question, and the reason is simple. I got the CPU for free, so so I'm not building a gaming rig, although I feel that I could probably do some light gaming with it. But in any case, we will be using that CPU. For memory, I got the Kingston HyperX 16 gigabit DDR4 at 2666 megahertz. I figured one stick of 16 gig should suffice for now. And if I decided to upgrade, I can always fill up the other slot, DIMM slot, with another 16 gigs to make it 32, but I think 16 is probably sufficient at this point. And then I got this ADATA 1 terabyte NVMe SSD, which is pretty the standard, I guess, 1 terabyte M2 SSD. And then finally, heard so much about the Noctua coolers, and this particular version is actually used, almost new, but I got it from a friend at a really good price, and we'll be using that. It's a low profile cooler that, having checked it, it will work with a LG 1200 CPU. So those are the parts, and let's get cracking. So the first thing we're going to do is open this baby up, right, and figure out how to fit all of the components. Should be pretty straightforward. Okay, I'm going to put it to the side. Let's remove the side case here. Alright, what we're going to do first is remove this piece with these two screws. Let's take a closer look. I should probably put the 120mm fan in first, and I'm guessing I need to remove this cage, figure out if I can put in an extra 1TB 3.5-inch hard drive that I have. This one right here. Good night. Okay, that's City, calling it a night. All right, so as I was saying, I have this spare one. Actually, it's not a spare, it's got some data in it, but it does have some extra hard disk space, so it should be a good backup drive to the M2 NVMe SSD stick that I have. Put this aside. Okay, so we'll remove this cage, and then I will probably need to mount the 120mm fan there. This is the AD that's already pre-installed. I think we'll install the fan, take the cage out, put the hard drive in it, put it back, and then I think the power supply goes on top of it, right? And then we'll put the motherboard. Obviously I need to put the CPU in the motherboard and the RAM modules first. Then when everything is done, we'll take the motherboard and put it in its position here. So this is for Intel LGA 1200 CPU. It is using the B460 chipset and optimized for the 10th generation core processor. As mentioned in my first video, I got the Core i5 10600K CPU. Let's take a quick look around the box itself. Okay, this particulars and some additional information on the specs. I'll just do a close up here. It's got some nice options in the back panel I/O. Lots of USB ports, and we'll check it out. Right, and some additional information about the CPU chipset, memory expansion slots, and storage. Okay, let's open up this box, see what we have. Right, nice tidy black cardboard, and this is the motherboard. Let's take it out first, put it aside, see what else we have in here. Lifting the motherboard support, and got some accessories here. This looks like a serial ATA cable. This looks like a oh, this is a USB Type-C cable, looks like. with a 3.5 millimeter female connector at the end. Never seen that one before. Interesting. Some cable ties. Okay, so this is the Wi-Fi 6 antenna. And this looks to be another serial ATA cable. And another one, I think. Oh no, this is something else. We'll figure that out. And a couple of screws for the M2 SSD card. Okay. What do we have here? Republic of Gamers welcoming card, I guess. Okay. And got a user guide. And let's see, what is this? It looks like some nice stickers. It should give some highlights to the box. Okay, I've removed the motherboard and I'm going to proceed with CPU and RAM module installation. Start with the CPU. Okay, so I do have this open. CPU is installed, correctly oriented, I believe, and it's locked in place. Now it's ready for the Noctua cooler. Actually, let me put the RAM module first. Okay, it's removed from its packaging. Okay, the RAM module is now inserted into that first DIMM and is secure. Okay, that's the M2 SSD. I think I'm just gonna put that SSD on the top side. So I have to remove the cooler with that one screw. Okay, let's see what we can do with the cooler. This is a Noctua NHL9i. Comes highly recommended. So I've got a couple of thermal pastes that I can dispense on the heat spreader, and that's a cooler. Okay, let's remove it from the housing. Okay, the cooler is now mounted. Pretty straightforward assembly. After putting the thermal paste on the heat spreader of the CPU, I proceeded to just put the cooler on top. And the way it's secured is through these 4 screws that came with the cooler, just finger tight. So that should make good connection between the cooler and the heat spreader now. All right, now we're ready to place the motherboard into the case. So here's the deal. The power supply I bought is a full ATX power supply. and the case was originally designed for an SFX, or small form factor power supply. But no problem, we have a remedy in place. So a good friend of mine helped 3D print this bracket that he downloaded. The design was downloaded from the internet. That should allow me to mount the power supply into the bracket, and then the bracket into the case. So let's go figure out how to go do that. Okay, I've mounted the power supply on the bracket and the bracket on the frame of the case. You can see that this is an optimal position with all of the DC supply wires extending below it. And more importantly, I leave enough room at the bottom of the power supply in case I want to fit a full-size graphics card with ample of space. Looking at it from the top, you can see that the power cable is readily accessible, and so is the switch. Yeah. So it looks to be in a good position. And the extension cord for the power is nicely tucked in now, and it runs all the way across to the external connection. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that setup. I think that will do just fine. The fan is pointing downwards, so it will be blowing, I guess, onto the CPU. But I think that's okay. Otherwise, it'll be facing on this side. So I think that's a good optimal position for the power supply fan. Okay, so this is the final product. I have repositioned the power supply and mounted it on the 3D printed bracket, which is the one in the blue color, obviously. So I was able to position it, and I think it's a pretty optimized arrangement. Did some basic power management on the top side. There's still a bunch of wires at the bottom here for extra SATA power. Now this did come at a cost. This cross beam that would have gone here can no longer be assembled because the power supply bracket took up all the space, so I was not able to insert it. Which isn't a problem, except I had plans to mount my 3.5-inch hard drive onto this plate. So now, at least for the time being, I have repositioned the hard drive at the base there. There's no screws or mounting, but since it's resting on its base, I figured that will be okay for the time being. Okay, so there's still ample room for when I want to add a graphics card later. I can use this entire length below the power supply, so it gives me some good options. But overall, that's it. The PC is fully assembled, very spacious. I think there's good ventilation. It only has two fans: the stock 80mm fan that came installed, and also the 120mm fan that came with the case, and I've installed that in the upper position. I could probably look at other options for more fans to improve airflow, but I think this will do for now. I'm really liking the big open space that we have in the box. So good for air circulation. Okay. All right, so let's put it all together and power it up. Okay, the PC is now powered up and it's connected. I have installed the Windows 10 operating system and was able to successfully boot up and connect it to my Wi-Fi network. So went ahead and customized my box with stickers that came with the components. Give it a little bit of character, but essentially I'm done. PC is running. Project completed. Thanks for tuning in.